if we haven't met before, my name's Anna. I am Just Love's Southwest Coordinator, which means that I support the groups in Exeter and in Bristol, as well as organising these training events, doing a bit of our funding strategy and a bit of a strategy about how to support you guys. But today I'm going to be talking about how to do meetings really well. Now, I wonder how many of you internally groaned when you heard that we were going to have a talk on meetings, because I know that meetings aren't a very popular topic. In fact, meetings are renowned for being boring. They've got a terrible rep. You rarely see anyone bounding out of a meeting, eyes twinkling, smile gleaming, energised by what they've just been in. More commonly, our friends and family come out of meetings and say things like, yeah, my day was fine, I was just in meetings. Or, oh, I got nothing done today, I was stuck in meetings all day. Their tone thick with frustration. People always seem to sit through or get stuck in meetings. No one seems to enjoy them. But the thing is, most of us are actually going to spend quite a lot of our life in meetings, so we might as well learn to do them well. And I don't actually believe that the concept of the meeting is wrong. I believe that the way we do them is wrong, because meetings are the backbone of all we do, right? They're this bubbling cauldron of the beginnings of a movement. They're the engine room of all your ideas. They're this intersection where the doing meets the dreaming. We can't get rid of meetings, but we also shouldn't want to. And I've sat through my fair share of boring meetings, believe me. Particularly frustrating meetings filled with Christians. I've been in a lot of them. We are the worst in meetings. But today I'm going to talk you through a theory, and as a staff team we practice that theory, and I promise you that when we have meetings together as a staff team, they are the best bits of my day, so I really believe in what I'm about to tell you. And the theory I'm going to be explaining is one from Patrick Lencioni, the team dynamics guy, his book Death by Meeting. And his theory is that meetings should be more exciting than movies, right? Maybe you don't think so yet, but that's what we're going to be speaking about today. We're going to be speaking about how meetings can be exciting and dynamic places to be. We're going to be taking apart some of our preconceptions about what meetings are like. Now, he thinks that meetings should be more exciting than movies because they are actually relevant to our life. I love a bit of escapism in a movie, but meetings are relevant to us right now, what's going on in our lives. And B, we're relevant to them. We can have a say and affect the way the meeting goes. And his theory for how you can make that theory possible is by doing more meetings. Now, let me explain keeping this theme of entertainment. So, the other kind of things we might watch on a TV, other than a movie, might be a news bulletin. So that might be one of the shortest things you can watch. If you wanted to watch something a bit longer, you might watch a sitcom, 20 minutes of fun. Then you've got that bit longer still would be a movie, I guess. And then you've got quite a lot longer. The days when we indulge in a box set binge. Now, without us necessarily knowing, these different categories of viewing set expectations for us. So when I watch a news bulletin, I'm expecting a delivery of information, a speedy delivery of information, not a dissection of a story. And when I watch a sitcom, I'm expecting fun, but I'm also expecting something quite formulaic, because they do seem to have key features in every episode. So think about Friends, they're always roughly going to be in either of the two flats. Central Perk, Chandler's going to be sarcastic, Monica's going to be highly strung. There's going to be a lot of stuff on their love life. Key things happen. Or if you think about Poirot, he's going about his life, having a nice time. Some disaster strikes, he twiddles and waxes his moustache, he goes about solving clues, the policeman's being a numbnuts. Then he gets everyone in the same room and reveals it. Or kids shows even clearer example, Scooby-Doo. The kids discover a baddie. Then they split up looking for clues. They lay a trap, they catch the baddie. They solve the mystery and they get cool meddling kids and go away. So sitcoms, although the bit in the middle is different, generally wrapped up in a similar formula. Now films, totally different, right? Films should have twists and turns. A predictable film is generally considered a poor film. So The prestigious genre and my dear friend, the chick flick, is often considered lowbrow. Poor thing. Because within about the first minute and a half, you can predict the whole plot. A film should keep you in suspense and surprise you. There should be conflict and drama. A box set binge, well, when you get that first access to Netflix or to Prime, or you get a box set and you agree with your friend, we're going to watch that whole season. The expectation you are setting is that you're not going to see all the plot nuances. You are going to inhale a whole storyline. You are going to gobble it all up. And these expectations that the category of viewing set, they help us prepare for what we're about to watch and engage with it. So if I am sitting down to watch a news bulletin, I am not going to get my PJs on, I'm not going to get a hot choc, I'm not going to get my watercolours out. If I did that, I'd have just taken my first sip and the bulletin would be over. Equally, if I am going to watch Gilmore Girls, I'm not expecting to get an accurate representation of small-town American life. If I was, I would be grossly misguided. But the thing is, meetings also cover a really wide range of topics, and they should be categorised to help us prepare for and engage with them well, but they aren't. In one meeting, we might be talking about who's going to bake for the next event, and then the next minute, a big discussion around why a couple of churches aren't getting involved with your Just Love group. But those small discussions about event practicalities use totally different brain power to big strategic discussions about church involvement, and jumping between can actually be really disorientating. And when we do that, the result is that those in the meetings have totally different expectations to one another, and none of them have prepared well, meaning that none of them give their best. We need to establish different categories for the different kind of conversations we're having in our meetings so that we know what to expect, we can prepare well, and we can engage well. And Patrick Lencioni, our good friend by now, he has suggested 4 kinds of conversation, 4 kinds of meetings that hold these kind of conversations. And I'm going to talk you through them now. They roughly map on to the kind of viewing I just spoke about. So number 1, the first type of meeting you are going to have is your daily check-ins. Now these are your news bulletin. Number 2 are your weekly tactical, and these are your sitcom. Number 3 are your monthly strategic, and these are your films. And number 4, they are your retreats, and these are your box set binge. So what I'm going to do is whiz us through those 4 different types of meetings, and then have a couple of extra bits on the end, and then I'm going to leave you to go ahead and chat that through with each other. So number 1, the daily check-in. Now the purpose of the daily check-in is to clarify as briefly as possible what everyone is up to, so that no one is stepping on each other's toes and no one needs to follow up unnecessarily. Everyone is kept in the loop. I wonder if you have ever been trying to make plans with a friend. I hope you have all made friends. Trying to make plans with a friend, and it's just really complex. You are waiting for someone else to confirm the situation before you can tell the friend you're meeting with what you're trying to do. And they keep messaging you like, where are you at, what's going on? And you're trying to message like, okay, so I'm here, and they're saying, could you come earlier? And you're like, well, I do, I just need to wait for Johnny to tell me whether he can do earlier. And then they're messaging, and you're just texting that, and then they're like, actually no, don't worry, I can only do later anyway. So then you're texting Johnny like, oh, so sorry, you don't need to do later, and he's texted like, well, now I can only do later. And you're texting this friend like, moving, and then your bus is cancelled. All that's very complex, and at some point you just need to pick up the phone and just have a conversation. Your daily check-in is the equivalent of that phone call. It's to save all the unnecessary back and forth, when if we were all up to date and in the loop, we wouldn't need to have that excess conversation. Now, it was made for people in full-time work, which you are obviously not. You are not all, this isn't your job. But there are some principles that we are going to take from this. And the principles are that it is helpful to keep each other up to date with little news flashes over WhatsApp, Facebook, Slack, whatever messaging service you use. Now, the kind of things you might share would be just met with the CU presidents, went really well, or got the campus coffee shop booked for the event. You don't need to be threatened by the title. So it's very unlikely you're going to have something to say every day. If you don't have anything to say, do not say anything. Equally, some roles on the committee are going to have more to say. Again, it's not a competition. If you don't have anything to say, don't say anything. These are just to keep you all in the loop. But the key is that these are news flashes. This is your news bulletin. So no discussions are to be had on this form. If every news bulletin gets 5 replies, loads of reacts, and then a discussion, you'll all end up with about 4 million notifications, and none of you will read them because you'll all get bored. And I would be the same. Totally. I think that's legit. So you need to just inform each other and let that be known. Everyone's heard. No one needs to follow up that person now because they've said meeting with so-and-so has been moved forward. I'll be meeting them next week instead, so you don't have to follow me up. But you don't need to be answering. And if any message turns into a discussion, you all have permission to just say to the person chatting, hey guys, can you take this into your own space, or should we talk about this at the weekly meeting? So little news flashes. The weekly meeting, your sitcom. Now, these are the meetings where you're going to smash out the nitty-gritty of your day-to-day just love life. Now, we use the term weekly tactical in contrast to the monthly strategic, these two kinds of discussions that you might have. And we hope that as a Just Love group, you will have visions and dreams and goals of where you want to get to. And you will be needing to make a strategy, a clear plan of how you're going to get there. And Esther's going to be explaining how you do that tomorrow. But to make your strategy happen, you'll need the smaller steps, the tactics. And these are what is discussed in your weekly tactical, these kind of step-by-step nitty-gritty. So the difference between those event practicalities and conversations around church involvement. It will be the difference between what you need to do for this Just Lunch to happen versus what your whole Just Lunch series is going to be on for the term. Now, remembering that these are your sitcoms, these need to be under an hour. We recommend about 45 minutes, and we do also really recommend that you have them weekly. It might seem a lot, but you will get so much more done if you just meet regularly and get in the rhythm of it, and they can stay shorter that way. But also because they are your sitcom, they are going to have some form of rhythm and key features that happen every week, just like Scooby-Doo and Friends and Poirot. And here is the 3 stages that make up your weekly tactical. Number 1, your progress report. So this is your evaluation of the week gone by. What happened? Is there any measurable data? If you had so you might be thinking about if you released a blog or a video, or you had an event or a fundraiser. Measurable data might be how many people came, how many saw it, how much money did you raise? But also, is there any unmeasurable data? Did someone say something that was really positive or a bit negative? Or what was the vibe in the room? This doesn't need to take long. It could only take 30 seconds, but definitely no more than 5 minutes. And you're just literally getting all on the table. Again, no discussion. The next section of your meeting will be your lightning round. And that is when every member of the committee has 60 seconds, no more, to sum up their priorities for the week. So a personal coordinator might say, my priorities for the week are I am booking the chapel for our next prayer and worship event. I am meeting with the people that have expressed interest in doing a politics stream. And I am meeting with that fresher that's been to all of our Just Lunches and seems really keen. That did not take many seconds. And now everyone on the committee knows what they're going to be working on this week. Now, at this point, after those 2 stages, you are going to stop and make your agenda. Now, I know that seems unusual because normally meetings start with an agenda being pre-released or whatever. But when that happens, it often feels like the agendas are just sort of being plucked out of thin air and they don't seem that relevant. By making your agenda now, you know you're not just chatting about things for the sake of it. You know you'll be chatting about things that are actually important and key to what's happening because they'll have been taken from your progress report and your lightning round. The third part of your meeting is your discussion, and that is just discussing what is going on, what you've said on the agenda. So these weekly tacticals need to be about short-term specific things. As soon as you feel that you're drifting off into something a bit more long-term, a bit more strategic, the person chairing the meeting needs to say, hey, that's great, but let's park that and talk about that in our monthly strategic. So, for example, if in a progress report review, you were talking about your Just Lunch, and you were saying it was so good, 20 people came, amazing, but only 2 churches came. What you're going to be talking about in your discussion is what needs to happen for this week's Just Lunch, who's on food, who's doing welcoming, who's going to message the 20 people that came last time to say, we loved having you there, would you come back again? How are we going to evaluate success? If someone pipes up and says, I'm a bit sad that not everyone, like we're only getting these 2 churches repeatedly, that seems to be a bit of a pattern. Like, I don't know, how do we get everyone else involved? The person chairing or someone else needs to say, that is such a great idea, let's note that down. I'm not in the headspace of that discussion because I haven't prepared for it and I won't have anything helpful to say. So can we talk about that in our monthly strategic? And you just need to be strict about it, guys. If we don't do that, that meeting would have gone 2 ways. Number one, you're aware that your meeting's only meant to be 45 minutes. So someone says, gosh, yeah, that is a bit troubling. And in our last 25 minutes, let's try and hash that out. Who's got ideas? And you throw around ideas and 45 minutes are up and everyone feels a bit confused. Everyone feels a bit frustrated because they didn't articulate themselves well and you've got no conclusions and no clarity. The other circumstance is that you disregard timing and you let the conversation go on. And people start to think as the minutes tick by and you hit an hour, you hit an hour and a half maybe. Oh gosh, well, my tutor meeting's in 20 minutes. I've got work to do. And people start feeling a bit resentful about the time that Just Love is taking, that they didn't want it to take, they didn't know it would take. So let's keep it tactical and let's honour people's time. This might sound all super intense and restricted, but it doesn't need to be. It's still fun. It just needs to have boundaries. So if you want to have times of extended prayer and you want to eat together, those things are great and they will really strengthen you as a committee. But just make sure that they're boundaried. So make sure that you know when business time is done. You make sure you know when your meeting's finished and you are now all going to go into eating or you're now going to go into your extended prayer. You don't want to be mid-Berianian banter and someone bring up some Just Love matter that you weren't ready for. You want to know when business is done and fun is over. It's part of honour. The final thing is that everyone does need to be there. You were picked to be on committee because of what you bring and what you offer, so don't rob people of that by not coming. And equally important, make sure you find a time that everyone can come to. Obviously, we're all busy. It may have to be at 7:30 a.m. or 8 p.m, but find a time that everyone can be there for. Okay, so daily check-in, weekly tactical, you're doing great. Type 3, these 2 are shorter. The monthly strategic, so this is our film. Now, over the course of those of the month, you're going to have a few of those moments where someone's piped up, trying to make it strategic. Gosh, what are they like? And you feel the need to have these big strategic discussions. So, you are, at the end of the month, probably going to have a list of a couple of things that you want to have more time set aside for. You don't have to do this every month. You could do every other month you might have a strategic. But what you need to know is that they're regular. You need to know when the next one is coming up. Try and keep each one to just 2 or 3 things to discuss. So just 2 or 3 different topics. And carve out 2 or 3 hours. So you give each one a proper time to be discussed, grappled with, questioned and fleshed out. And with these, it's really important that you do prepare. You'll be given the agenda before. It's not like the weekly tactical. So you'll know what's coming up and you'll have heard about it because they'll have been spoken about before. If you want to do a bit of research, go for it. But take some time to think about what the discussion is going to be on. Think about what your perspective are, what you're going to bring to that. You're going to be talking about some of your biggest challenges or your big dreams. You're going to be smashing out, some of these really exciting stuff. And you want to do the big stuff justice by committing time to prepare and engage. So the kind of things you might want to talk about in your strategics could be your global focus for the next term, what you're going to be looking at. You could be talking about something that actually isn't really working that well and you need to address. You could be talking about church involvement, or where did all the boys go in our Just Love community? You could be talking about handover and what other leaders you want to be raising up, or you could be planning out your next term. A dream for a Just Love group is to end one term with the skeleton of the next term planned out. And a strategic would be a really good time to do that. Finally, the termly retreat, your box set binge. So this is the time for you and your committee to get away from all the things that normally try and snatch your attention, and to take stock, to take in the whole storyline, to look at Just Love in a more holistic, long-term way. This is not the time to plan, guys. I cannot stress this enough. You are not meant to plan on your retreats. These are your time to rest, pause, and reflect together. So the kind of things you might want to discuss might be team dynamics. Where are you at with your team dynamics? What cultures have you set that are really good? Actually, what do you want to improve? This is a really important space for you guys to be open and honest and be able to discuss any kind of behaviours that you're struggling with. This is also a great space to do some big blue sky thinking. What would we do if we could do anything in the world? Or to look back on notes from training and see if there's any nuggets you were going to implement that you haven't yet. Or you could reflect on what the Christian scene looks like in your city. What's going on with the CUs and the churches? How are we linking together with them? You could look back at your vision or your values and see how you're doing with the Just Love values. It's a time to reflect. Now, we recommend setting apart a whole day or maybe even 2 to properly get away. And if you can, go somewhere different. You could go to one of your homes or the next door town or city, or even just the non-student-y part of your city. But get away from where business as normal is conducted and take some time to really take stock. If you could do this 3 times a year, you're smashing it. If you can do it 2 times, that's amazing. This sounds full on, these 4 structures, I know it does. So you've got your daily check-in with your little news flashes to keep people up to date and in the loop. You've got your weekly tactical where you're going to smash out the nitty-gritty. You've got your monthly strategic where you're going to tackle your biggest challenges and think about your biggest dreams. And then you've got your termly retreat where you're going to pause and take stock. And that can sound intense, but by doing more meetings, more types of meetings, we will spend less time in meetings and we'll get more stuff done. So this is really important. Now, I've been talking for a little while, so if you want to run around your room for a second, do a star jump, do a press up, pause for press up, we're going to pause for a press up. I won't because I might come out of focus. Not as in your focus, but the camera focus, and I don't know how to get myself back in. So I'm going to stay still, take a breather, give your brain some time to catch up. Okay, so we have got 4 types of meetings, but we also have 1 foundation and 4 principles that we want to run through your meetings to make sure that these are done really well. So the foundation, set expectations. It's really important that we start our times on committee all on the same page with what that means, with what you're committing to and what you're expecting from each other. When we do this, we avoid people getting hurt and feeling dishonoured. So have a chat through, we'll do this, you'll do this in a minute, but have a chat through what your commitment to each other is. What does honouring each other and loving each other well, what does being on committee mean to you? What will you commit to? It doesn't need to be a restrictive or a regulating thing. This is a freeing thing, and it's about loving each other really well. And by doing this and starting with that foundation laid, you will thrive. So things you might want to say are, we're going to commit to eating together once a term. Or being on committee means prioritising X, Y, and Z. Or we're all going to make sure that we're at meetings 5 minutes early, or we are going to have a no phones in meetings policy, not even on the table, because face down, that looks like you're going to leave. We're just not going to have them. Or we're going to commit to not making jokes that no one else understands, especially if there's a big group of you from one church. Whatever it is, start now with like some house rules, some expectations for what you can all do to love each other well. So 1 foundation, 4 principles. First principle, embrace conflict. Now, some of you hate conflict, I know, and especially hate it with people you're working with. So me saying embrace conflict is going to make you want to sprint out the room, flush your head down the loo. Please don't. Conflict is healthy. We learnt about that earlier. And I wonder if you remember way back in my talk, I said that the thing that makes films interesting is the conflict and the drama. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you need to stir conflict up where there's not any, because sometimes we all agree, and that's really great. But often we don't. And we, especially Christians, are really good at just brushing it under the rug and silently being a martyr about the fact that we weren't agreed with. What I'm saying to you is that if conflict comes knocking, don't slam the door in its face. Open it up, let it in, give it a hug. Remember what Patrick Lencioni said, that when we don't let conflict be aired, when we don't let everyone express their opinion fully, people feel underheard and they feel undervalued. And that means that that conflict will fester into hurt and bitterness. So let's let all opinions be heard and truly heard. Let's be prepared to acknowledge that your way of thinking isn't necessarily right just because it was instinctive to you. You are not always right. When we listen, let's let our guard down and have a fresh slate to receive what's being said to us. Let's be a people that are kind, gracious, and humble. And let's remember that conflict doesn't mean we hate each other. It's a process of refining our ideas. So principle 1, embrace conflict. It's really healthy. Principle 2, who's in charge? Every meeting, whether it's tactical or strategic, needs someone driving the conversation, defining the decisions and the next actions to ensure that those points actually happen. There is a knack to chairing meetings, so we do suggest that the same person does it each week, and we suggest that the secretary chairs your weekly tacticals. You might want to have someone different do your strategics or your termly retreats. That doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that you all know who's in charge. That's a simple one. Number 3, follow up. Now, often groups have these amazing meetings filled with amazing ideas, but they really struggle to implement them, which means that the ideas never happen. So it's worth coming up with a system that means no one leaves the meeting and forgets what they actually committed to half an hour ago. Generally, posting the minutes afterwards isn't good enough because not everyone will read them, and I say that with my hands in the air that I probably wouldn't have read them. So you need to come up with a system that works for your committee. You need to define the next actions that need to be taken, what needs to be done, who is doing it, and when does it need to be done by. Some groups have a system where the secretary will message each individual committee member after the meeting and tell them their next actions, and then they will message them in the week to check in with how they're doing on them. They might not need to if the daily check-ins are answering those questions. And that is not nagging, secretaries. I want to release you that is enabling, not nagging. You are enabling people to do what they said they would do. And we need to love our secretaries really well because it's a hard job. If that's what it takes, if that system, then go for it. You might find another system, but whatever it is, find a system that works and do it well, because we don't want your ideas to get stuck in the meeting room. Principle 4, prayer. Don't try and do it without prayer, guys. We need to be in constant communication with the Father, because after all, we're just joining in with his ideas. We're just joining in with his plan. And having well-run meetings isn't incompatible with spirituality. It's part of it. Our God is a God with a plan. Our God is a God of excellence. And our God is a God of sacrifice, love and honour. And we want to embody those things in our meetings. We want them to be filled with love, honour and sacrifice. We want them to be places with plans, and we want them to enable excellence. So keep him at the heart of what you do. Keep prayer central, not just a token prayer at the start of your meeting and at the end of your meeting. Pray throughout. If you feel prompted to take something to prayer in the middle of your meeting, go for it. If maybe you're hitting walls in a discussion and you can't see a way through, or maybe actually a conversation feels quite tense, invite Holy Spirit back in. Whatever it is, keep prayer central. So I'm going to ask a few questions on a PowerPoint now. You'll have a little slide. And you are going to head back into your video calls. And can you tell I'm not techie? I'm not really sure of the language. And you're going to chat about them. So you're going to be chatting through each of those meetings. What could that look like for you? What could a daily check-in look like? When will you do your weekly tactical, etc.? And then you're going to be chatting through some of those foundations, thinking about what expectations you want to set, etc. Great listening. See you soon.